Hola amigos de LATAM, bienvenidos de nuevo a nuestro segundo conversatorio. Hoy estará presente Eric García de nuevo en la presentación que tenemos para hoy acerca de el mercadeo a través de redes sociales. Espero que la plática del martes haya sido de su interés. Inicialmente se había decidido empezar con el tema de acoso o bullying en redes, porque a partir de ahí se entiende un poco más de la situación que se está viviendo con los temas de redes sociales. Y Eric me ha solicitado hacer esa primero y dar la segunda como herramienta de mercadeo para el día de hoy. Entiendo que hubo ciertas dificultades de ingreso al link. Espero que el día de hoy haya sido más fácil la forma de entrar. O sea, tratamos de enviar los links directamente a las diferentes asociaciones para que se ingresara directamente sin tener que llenar algunos formularios. Entonces, espero que el día de hoy se esté logrando tener un poquito más de audiencia. Incluso voy a ir retrasando un poco el inicio del video para permitir que más gente pueda ingresar, ya que entiendo que la semana pasada mucha gente tuvo dificultad en el momento de ingresar, quizás por temas de horario, etc. Sí quiero recalcar que es nuevamente nuestra primera intervención en el tema de este tipo de cursos en línea. Entonces, se presentan ciertos problemas técnicos. El día de hoy estamos teniendo uno, entonces tenemos un retraso en la presentación del video que pronto vamos a presentar. Pero la idea es que estos temas de educación continua sigan llegando a ustedes. Es importante que su interacción sea también esté presente, porque es importante para los expositores poder tener algún tipo de tener preguntas para poder responder el día de hoy. Eric, de nuevo, está presente. Posteriormente, ustedes pueden redactar las preguntas en el chat y yo les estaré respondiendo. O sea, se las estaré transmitiendo a Eric en inglés traducidas y nuevamente su respuesta yo se las estaré dando en vivo. Entonces aprovechemos el chat para poder hacer esas preguntas. Igualmente, si tienen preguntas de la plática del martes, con mucho gusto pueden ingresarlas y ahí se pueden contestar en el momento. Más o menos vamos a durar 1 hora en la presentación del video, 50 minutos. Después daremos una pausa para las preguntas, que las ingresen al chat, y después tendremos unos 15 a 20 minutos para preguntas y respuestas. Por favor, usen el chat de nuevo para llenar esas preguntas o sus comentarios, su retroalimentación. Les recuerdo, es una iniciativa específica de Latinoamérica para poder tener expositores de diferentes latitudes, en este caso de Estados Unidos. Les recuerdo, la semana próxima, tenemos al doctor Juan Borrego de España y Marta Herrera de España también, martes y jueves respectivamente. Y la semana siguiente, la tercera semana, tendremos participantes en las exposiciones de México y de Argentina. Pues de nuevo, les repito, estaremos pendientes y esperando a que todos puedan ingresar el día de hoy para que Eric pueda responder todas sus preguntas acerca del manejo de redes sociales y el acoso que se está dando. De suma importancia, de nuevo, su retroalimentación es importante para ver si eventualmente en el transcurso del año podemos tener iniciativas de este tipo de nuevo. Entonces, por favor, no duden en tener todas esas preguntas en el chat. La semana próxima y la tercera semana serán en vivo. Este experimento que tratamos de hacer grabado es solo esta semana. La otra semana también debo de decirles, probablemente se va a adelantar el horario de las pláticas debido al horario en España. Entonces, les estaremos informando a través de sus asociaciones los nuevos horarios de la semana entrante. Pues no quiero retrasar más. Espero ya tengamos una audiencia significativa para poder empezar con el video. Entonces, voy procediendo a empezar la transmisión. De nuevo, es un placer estar en este primer congreso latinoamericano de WSAVA, primer congreso virtual, y espero que esto se vaya convirtiendo en un hábito y no ir y no solamente tenerlo virtual y eventualmente tenerlos presenciales. Pues muchas gracias y espero que la plática de hoy sea de su agrado. Hola de nuevo. Me presento de nuevo para pedirles disculpas. Tuvimos un problema técnico con el subir el video a YouTube. Es un archivo bastante pesado, entonces aparentemente se tomaba más tiempo de la cuenta. Pero ya estamos listos, entonces disculpas por el retraso. De nuevo, son situaciones que pasan. Estamos en un momento donde todo es nuevo e incierto, entonces al mal tiempo buena cara, y ya aquí los dejamos con el video con la presentación de Eric, y que espero lo disfruten.
The perfect social media strategy. This is something that I hope to inspire you when it comes to making sure that you have a strategy in your practice that works when it comes to social media, and making sure that I hopefully give you some realistic advice that you can implement in your practices when it comes to making sure that that we get some engagement on social media, and that the time that we are spending on social media, that we spend it efficiently, and that if we're using social media, that we use it correctly, and that we don't violate certain terms and policies and things that are in place that could actually harm us in the future here. And so, I call it the perfect strategy. Just a little bit more information about me. I did start my career working in a 12 doctor veterinary practice in Tampa while going through school. So I know what it's like to work in a practice. I know how busy you are, and I try to make sure that I provide realistic tips and advice that you can take away in your practices, understanding those days of working in a practice. After working in that practice, I had the opportunity to become VP of veterinary exclusive marketing firm. And it was really in that role that I got to see how hungry the profession was to better utilize the web, not only as a means to attract new clients, but also as a means to engage their existing clients, which is really a lot of what we're going to be talking about during our time together for this session here. And now I'm very fortunate. I get to do that all day long, work exclusively with veterinary practices all over the world, now connecting virtually with veterinary practices of the world, really helping them utilize technology across the board. I'm an advisory board member with the American Association of Feline Practitioners. I do get to lecture on these topics all over the world, and the reason I mention that is a lot of what we're talking about today is not specific to us here in the US and Canada. Regardless of where you're at in the world, the way that we engage with one another has changed. And so it's important that we really recognize that and we embrace it. I'm also the former marketing columnist of Today's Veterinary Business, and then author of over 15 chapters in 2 versions of Blackwell's 5-Minute Veterinary Practice Management Consult. So I have to start with the bummer point first, the womp womp womp, the thing that a lot of people do, and I try to incorporate this in as many talks as I do about marketing, but especially social media, and that is making sure that we don't utilize copyrighted images. So I'm going to chug some coffee here while you look at this and think to yourself, oh shoot. Okay, so what do I mean by that? There are so many practices that will go on social media, and the holidays are coming up here, and say you wanted a picture of a group of kittens, and the kittens are playing in a Christmas tree, and they're playing with the lights, kind of like my shirt, and say you wanted to post that on social media and say happy holidays everyone from our home or practice to yours. And obviously you may or may not have a picture of a group of kittens in a Christmas tree playing with a whole bunch of Christmas lights. And if you don't, like most people don't, then you're going to go to Google and you're going to Google cat Christmas tree lights playing, and you're going to go there and you're going to download a picture that you see, and you're going to go ahead and share it on Facebook, and you're going to go on an Instagram and you're going to share it on Instagram. You might even share it on your email marketing newsletter, and then you potentially might send it off to your website company, and then they're going to go ahead and post it on your website. And we do this, and we don't recognize that the act of doing that can run the risk of copyright infringement. Meaning that a majority of the images, I wouldn't say the majority, many of the images that are on Google that we steal, or that we steal from other Facebook pages, are subject to copyright patents. And so simply what that means is that there are pictures that are protected by global law that prohibit the ability of someone taking them, downloading them, and using them as if they were their own image. And so if I happen to own this beautiful picture of kittens, like let's just say for a second, I own this picture, this is mine, I printed it, I put it on a shirt. And then I went and I hired a copyright lawyer, and I said, I love this picture of kittens so much that I've created, and I'm going to copyright it, and I'm going to have this protected by law. And then I pay my lawyer thousands of dollars, and then he or she goes and protects this image for me. Well, if you take this image and you post it on your Facebook page or your website, I can technically sue you, because this is my image that I have protected under global law for copyright infringement. Many veterinary practices do this unintentionally, right? You don't do it maliciously. You're not like, haha, I'm going to steal this image so they lose and they don't make money ever. You know, that's not what we do. But oftentimes we will take an image and you know, we just try to bring some joy to our pet owners on social media, and we share it. And practices have been fined anywhere as little as $300 US up to $30,000 US per illegally utilized images. Very early on in my career, I had a practice that was fined $30,000 for using an image that was protected under copyright patents, and they shared it on their website. This was before people used Facebook for businesses, and they were fined for doing that. And luckily, they were able to settle. I think they settled, and they only had to pay something like $26,000, so they got a good deal there. And that's happened numerous occasions since then, and it's extended to social media. I've had practices and even individuals that I know that have been subject to fines for images that they've illegally used. And so I can safely say that 99.5999% of veterinary practices have unknowingly done this. And the reason I know that is because, you know, naturally I look at dozens of Facebook pages per week for veterinary practices, and those images come up time and time and time again. And so it's important that we educate the person who manages social media in our practice, and that we go ahead and we remove the images on our social media accounts that we know we did not have permission to use. And the reason for that is we can't tell easily which images are copyrighted and which images are not copyrighted. Not all images that are copyrighted have that big fat C with the circle around it. Sometimes images are copyrighted and you'll never know until you get one of those fines. And by the way, it's not the author of the image that's going out there and looking to see if you've illegally utilized their image. It's not that. It's photo recognition software that is scanning the web and that is finding images that match the image that is owned by someone. And when that photo recognition software finds that, it snaps a screenshot, it gets sent to the attorney's office, who then sends you either cease and desist or they send you a fine. So it is important that we don't do this. This is from one of the websites, this is from Facebook, that says in their terms and conditions, meaning those things that we never read when we sign up for social media accounts, that is really long and really can is basically their liability waiver and how we use the website, says that you have to make sure that when you use Facebook that you don't violate copyright law, and that you only share images that you've purchased or that you have licensed, or that you have a disclaimer saying that you don't intend to infringe, right? I mean, there's a long list of things here that they encourage you to do so you don't get in trouble. But when you upload these images onto Facebook or Instagram or your website, you're assuming and showing everyone that it's your image and that you own it. And the question that commonly gets asked is, well, if I put credit to the owner, if I say Eric Garcia owns this picture of kittens, and that's it, and we give me credit, and maybe you link them to my website, that's not okay unless you've actually reached out to the author of that image or the creator of that cartoon or whatever it is. Unless you've actually reached out to them to get permission, you can't take it upon yourself to get that consent. And so it is extremely important that we make sure that we look at that and that we don't go ahead and try to violate copyright laws unintentionally. So the best thing that you can do is go to all of your social media accounts, sit down with the person who manages social media. Maybe it's you, maybe it's someone else, but you sit down and you go through all of the pictures on your pages and you delete the images that you know you did not have permission to use. If that means you have to delete a majority of your images, that's okay, right? Facebook's not going to say, what happened to all of your images? We're going to penalize you. And your pet owners are not going to be like, wow, you had a whole bunch of pictures, now you don't have any. No one's going to look at that in a way that's suspicious or really in a way that matters. If anything, what it does is it protects you to make sure that you don't get in trouble when by using these images that you don't have permission to use. So I encourage you, go to the person who manages your social media, you sit them down and you say, hey, I just learned that Noodle U, and then they're like, what's Noodle U? And then you tell them it's this conference, and then they say, why is it named after a noodle? And you say, to noodle on things, that's when you think about things, and they're like, oh, okay, that's weird. And then you say, well, anyway, what I learned at Noodle U, that's a funny name, is that Eric said that we shouldn't be using images that we didn't get permission to use because we can get in trouble. And let's go ahead and remove those images together. So that way, you don't go to that person and you're like, hey, I learned at Noodle U that you probably have images that you didn't take and get permission for. We need to remove them now or you're gonna get in trouble. Because then that's gonna make me say, people default to the opposite answer from truth, and they say, well, no, I have permission to use everything, right? So you don't want to be accusatory in any way, but just be very open about it. One of the things that you can do is you can invest in a cute pet camera or clinic cell phone. I think this is one of the best investments that you can make in marketing, among other things too. But what's great about this is that the customer service representative, the nurses, the veterinary assistants, someone can be responsible for carrying that clinic cell phone or clinic camera on their person. And when they find the right opportunity, that they go ahead and they take that picture, right? And here's the benefit of using a cell phone is that, or a camera that's very easy to use, is that if I'm in the practice and it's, I see this great moment that's happening right before my eyes, and I'm like, this is beautiful. That is Becky right down on her knees, and there's a pet there, and she's smiling, and the dog looks goofy, and oh my God, the clinic cat is right behind them and doing something silly. I want to be able to grab that clinic camera out of my pocket and go ahead and snap that picture and go ahead and then share it on social media. Whereas if you don't have a clinic camera or a clinic cell phone or some sort of device that someone in your practice who manages social media can use, then what's going to happen is they're going to see that beautiful moment that's happening before their eyes. They're going to be like, wait, where's the clinic cell phone? And then they're going to have to go find it somewhere, and they don't know where it's at, and no one knows who has it. Is it in the dental area? Are we taking pictures of it for dentals? What's going on? Who has it? And then when we finally get the camera and we're like, here's the moment, Becky's long gone, answering the phones again or doing whatever it is that she does in our practice that no one knows. And so it's important that we make sure that we give someone, the person who manages social media, some sort of camera to use in our practice, organic clinic cell phone. And I actually encourage that device to be something that the practice owns. So this way we don't have our employees taking pictures on their own cell phones, which then we just don't really know how they can utilize. We want to make sure that we incorporate and utilize the booking appointment features within social media. A big part of social media is meant to educate, yes, of course. We're going to talk about ways that we can do that effectively. It's meant to be a tool for people who search for new businesses to be able to engage with us. And so we want all of those things we want social media to work for us in those ways. But in order for it to work for us in those ways, we have to have certain tools integrated and turned on. So we want to have a book an appointment feature that is on Facebook, that is working for us to be able to give a pet owner the opportunity to say, hey, I saw this great album that you've created on the importance of dental care. I need to schedule an appointment to talk to you. Or if it's a new pet owner and they went to Google because Robert and his team at Digital Empathy did a great job at making sure that you rank highly on Google, and then they went to your beautiful Digital Empathy website, and people are like, wow, I really get to the essence of who this practice is. And then when they continue their research, and possibly in some cases, they go to Facebook and they do research on you. And if Facebook is that last place for them to land, well, let's give them the opportunity let's streamline that experience, and let's give them the opportunity to go ahead and book an appointment there. So I do recommend that we turn on the book an appointment functionality within Facebook. And more importantly than that, I actually recommend that you utilize the native book an appointment scheduling feature within Facebook. The reason, what I mean by native is Facebook has a book an appointment scheduling capability that's built into the platform. So native means that it's built in to Facebook, and that's how it's meant to be used. If we think of something that's not native, that means that you have the ability to book an appointment, but then it links me to another website. It links me somewhere else. And when I'm taken away and it's not something that's built into the platform, then that's going to slow down the experience. And Facebook actually wants people to utilize the native scheduling functionality within it. And the reason for that is what Facebook realized is that when the book an appointment feature is turned on, and Facebook will actually ask you, do you want to link people to a website, or do you want to use the one that's built into our platform? They actually encourage you to use the one built into their platform, because if it links you to another website, and say that website is not a Digital Empathy website, and it's not a good website, and it doesn't load well, then when that loads on my screen, it's not going to work that well. And it might be slow to load. It might not be easy for me to navigate through. And then I'm going to get frustrated like people do. And then I'm going to move on about my day and be like, okay, forget it. I can't schedule an appointment, then it's not easy. So what's great about the feature that's built into Facebook here is that I can send a request for a service, and it's simply a request. And Facebook will actually tell you when the appointment is booked that it is just a request. And that it'll tell me who's trying to request the appointment, what date and time they're trying to request an appointment, any message that they put. And so this is an example of what it looks like on your screen. If I want to go ahead and confirm this date and time that Eric wants to come in, because it happens to work for us, then I can go ahead and click on schedule, and then it'll go ahead and send me a notification on Facebook that says the appointment has been scheduled. And then you go ahead and book it in your management software, and then they'll get any appointment reminders like we talked about in the previous session that you have set up. So it is something that is important when we think about the Purrfect strategy. We want to make sure that social media works for us in this way. The other thing I want to talk about before I share just tons of examples of postings that really work well and why they work well is this right here. And this is how the Facebook and really mostly all social media algorithms work. An algorithm is really what determines what goes into what we see. And so I want to give you just an example on how this works, because if you remember this important rule of thumb here, then you will set yourself up for success on social media moving well into the future. So just because we follow a business or a person or we're friends with someone, it doesn't mean that we're going to see every single thing that they post. Just because I like you on Facebook or I follow you on Instagram, or just because you and I are friends on Facebook, doesn't mean that I'm going to see everything that you post, right? And the reason for that is Facebook limits what we see based off of businesses and people and friends that we engage with the most. And I'll share an example of how this works here so you can kind of really understand. But just say for a moment here, let's take our practices out of the equation here, right? And let's pretend that we're friends on Facebook, right? Like me and you and I, right? We're friends. We jive together. We both like cappuccinos with almond milk, 4 stevia, and 4 shots of espresso. And we're just good friends like that, right? But let's pretend we're friends, right? You and I, we're friends. We're good, right? You and I are tight because we're friends on Facebook and we connected, and That's what determines true friendship now. And let's say that we're friends on Facebook, and let's say that I share pictures of things that I do, right? I've been working from home. I counted 300 days this year, right? So I've been at home for 300 days. I don't have the fortune of going to a veterinary practice like you do right now. Some of you are like, that's not a fortune. I want to be at home 300 days, but I've been at home 300 days. And let's say I share pictures of just me and my dogs. I share pictures of kitten sweaters. I share pictures of just my crazy at-home work outfits. I share pictures of just random things, right? And let's say for the most part that you like those pictures, right? Let's say for the most part, and what I mean by like is literally you click on like or love or support or angry or whatever, any of those emotions, right? Which is considered a like. And let's say you like them often, and maybe you don't like them, but you comment, right? Maybe you're like, oh, Eric, Elvis, and Penny, they're adorable. I love seeing them. Maybe you're the kind of person. Maybe you're the kind of person who's just a creeper, right? And that's okay. We are all creepers when it comes to social media, right? And a creeper is someone who will click on something that someone has posted, but they'll never leave a bread trail, a crumb trail to let them know that they were there, right? They will not, it's like, I'll give you an example. A creeper is someone who, and I mean this with peace and love, and I don't actually mean this in a negative way, but a creeper is someone who it's a colleague and a friend that I know. And I think I saw this person at a trade show. This was a few years ago. And they're like, wow, you've really been traveling a lot and you've been doing this. And oh, by the way, congratulations on that. And then you're like, wow, we haven't had a conversation in about a year and a half. And I don't really ever remember us being friends on social media, right? And then they're like, and then they admit to you, they're like, yeah, it's because, I see all the things that you post. And I think to myself, well, that's interesting because I never know that you see those things because you never really tell me that you see those things. And I don't really ever see you like things. And that's just how weird social media works. But that's a creeper, right? And we all creep. We've all seen things where we're like, oh my God, did you see this? Blah, 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 whatever. Or maybe we creep because we don't want people to see things that we've seen on social media. And so I don't know why that made me laugh. But my point here being that if you do any one of those things, like, comment, or creep, and creep by clicking, then what we're doing is we're showing Facebook that we are interested, and we're showing all social media channels that we are interested in what that person has to say. And so the more that we do that, the more that social media will show us postings from that individual, from that business, from that friend that we follow. If you were to post something and say all you posted was, pictures of coffee, right? And at first I was like, yeah, this is my jam. I love that Starbucks drink. And then you posted it again and again, and I'm like, okay, dude, this only gets so exciting. Like, what's up with that, right? And I get bored and I tune it out. Then that means that I'm training social media that I'm not as interested in what you have to say. Therefore, I'm going to see less of what you have to say. Same rule of thumb applies to your practice. If someone if a practice is sharing something on social media and it fails to get people to click like, comment, and share, to get people to click on it, and we share content that no one does anything with, then what we're showing Facebook and other social media platforms is that the content that we're delivering isn't interesting, and therefore they're going to show us less content that comes from us, from our practices. So if you're sharing a lot of content, but no one's doing anything with it, then Facebook's probably not showing it to people. But if you're sharing a lot of content and people are doing something with it, then chances are Facebook's showing your content to a majority of people. So it is important that we remember that rule of thumb. I want to quickly share with you just a tale of 3 veterinary practices. And these 3 veterinary practices have followed the same exact tips that I'm about to give you here. I call it a tale of 3 practices. So not that creative there. But this practice here has 500 followers. My general rule of thumb is that we want to get at least 40% of the people that are following us to be able to see our postings. Because if we can get at least 40 or greater percent of the reach from people who are seeing our stuff, then that means that everything else on social media is working for us. That means we are getting enough likes, comments, and shares. That means we are getting people who enjoy our content. So this practice here has 500 followers. One posting reached 481, one 589, one 377, another one 259, one 130, right? So remember, 40% here. This practice is achieving higher than 40% of reach, which shows that what they're doing on social media is actually working and engaging people. When we look at this practice here, 800 followers, one posting 630, another 439, another 426, another 440, another 2,000, right? Yes, we're reaching 40% of the total number of people that are following us. And then there's this practice here, 127, 245, 218, 194, 58, 80, 70, 73. This practice has 950 followers. They are not engaging a majority of their followers, which means that there's something happening with the content that they're sharing. When you see this example here of a practice, this is an example of an old strategy where they weren't really sharing content that truly engaged. And then they changed their strategy to follow the same tips I'm about to teach you. And you can see the leap in engagement that they had here. In fact, I want to share a story with you and share tips along the way of a veterinary practice in Muncie, Indiana, and how they were able to turn around their social media and what they did to do that. So this practice in Muncie, Indiana has 1,697 people who like them. And you can see here their postings reached 350, one posting reached 717. By the way, you can see how many people your postings reach when you go to Facebook and you click on Insights, or when you log into Instagram underneath each of those postings. So you can find that information anytime that you post, as long as you're connected to your Facebook page as an admin or an editor. So they had a pretty decent engagement. It's not actually terrible. It's not the 40%, but it's pretty good. It's not too bad. And so this practice made a change to their strategy. In fact, this is what their Facebook page looked like before. They had this picture here, and you can see it says Care Animal Hospital, it says Muncie, Indiana, and then it says Call Us Today. Now, the last Noodle U, and in previous conferences I've spoken at, I've talked about the importance of making sure that we have more personalized images in our marketing. I don't want to see generic images. I don't want to see images that you've licensed in your marketing. Look, it works great as a starting point. When you first start to create your website, it's great. It does something for you. When you start your social media, it does something for you. But in the long term, that's not what I want. I want to see pictures of smiling faces. I want to see pictures of you. Their Facebook cover photo, while it looks professional, isn't really what I'm looking for from a marketing standpoint, right? One of the great ways to connect with our audience is to really show them who we are. This picture doesn't do that. It looks professional though. And then this is what they posted. They were posting, pictures of pets. They were posting some things that were funny, but nothing that was really graphically appealing, right? The images didn't really catch your eyes, they kind of really blended in with your newsfeed. And then when you read the content, it really didn't do much either in terms of providing valuable education or linking people to somewhere that was efficient. So then they changed the way it looks. Remember, I want to see pictures of who you are. I want to see smiling faces. So Care Animal Hospital actually owns 3 total veterinary practices in the Muncie, Indiana area. And so they rebranded it, right? They used an app called Canva, canva.com, where you can create Facebook cover photos and make them look really good, but you can more importantly use your own images. And so what I love about Care Animal Hospital now is, look, I get to see 2 pictures of smiling faces of people that I'm about to entrust in the care of my pets. When you look at Maplewood Animal Hospital, I get to see the practicing veterinarian at that hospital. I get to see that smiling face that I'm about to trust. When I look at Elwood, I see a group of smiling faces, but I get to see who these practices are. By following a strategy of sharing more clinic-specific information, more smiling faces, more case studies, and I'll share some examples of what they did. Look at the change in their strategy. Remember, their postings were reaching 300, 400, 500 people. Now look at their posts. One reached 700, another 772, another 789. One posting reached 1,600. The one before that reached 1,000 people. The one before that wasn't a boosted ad reached 2,200 people. Another one 900. Another posting 1,800 people. Another posting 3,300. I mean, look at all of these postings here, right? Look at consistently how many more people they were able to reach. In fact, their strategy is so successful that they're reaching more people than the people that are following them. And what did they do? What changes did they make? If you look at their Facebook page, remember the generic content that they shared before with images that didn't really capture people's attention, that didn't really do a great job at education. Now they're using more clinic-specific content. So when you look at the posting on the left here, this is a case example. I'm a firm believer in sharing examples of pets that come into our practices where we're able to do good, right? This says, meet Sherman. Sherman is a 15-month-old Great Dane who came into Care Animal Hospital after his owner noticed that he wasn't acting himself. He had no energy, no appetite, and the owner noticed a faster heartbeat. Thanks to his owner's fast response time, one of our doctors was able to see Sherman, calm his heart enough to spare his life. After an ECG and other tests, we determined that Sherman had an atrial tachycardia arrhythmia, try saying that 5 times fast, which, and you guys are like, yeah, I do it all the time, which causes the heart to beat erratically and is common in Great Danes. Sherman is still a work in progress, but as you can see, he is a fan favorite at our practice. Now, they didn't just say Sherman is great, Sherman loves coming to the practice, which works, and that's great, it's a nice posting, but they shared a story like, hey, if you notice something's going on with your pet, like this owner responding now saved the life of this dog, right? So you shouldn't sit on things. When you know that your pet's not acting right, bring them on in. This posting reached over 2,000 people. They also, if you notice posting on the right, that reached over 5,000 people. And by the way, you'll notice that that boost post button is still bright blue, which means that they didn't pay for these responses. If it was in faint blue, then that means that they boosted it, meaning that they paid Facebook a certain amount of money to ensure that people see it. But they didn't. These are all what's considered organic. And they asked pet owners and they said, hey, we want your pet photos. We're in the process of updating the art around our practice. If you just enter with your pet's picture, you could be entered into being featured in the art around our practice, and we're going to announce the winners on Facebook. Over 5,000 people reached it, over 307 comments, over 24 shares. What I like about this is a few things here. One is, this is a brilliant idea. If you are looking to fill the walls in your practice, don't fill them with old art or things that you find at a thrift shop, right? Fill them with patient art. You can go to canvasworld.com and you can print. In fact, you can kind of see it here. This is one of my favorite pictures of an airplane wing that I took when I was traveling several years ago, and I absolutely loved it. And I got it printed on a canvas for like, I don't know, 40 bucks or something like that. And you can do the same. There's some other ones that you can't really see here that I did the same thing, but you can do this. And then you can feature pet pictures. And it's a great place to start that conversation on social media. What this does for that practice is it's a part of that journey that pet owners experience when they're searching for a new practice. They naturally go to their Facebook pages. They see how they engage with their pet owners. They really prove to people that they build strong relationships with their pet owners. They show that they care. They show that they're pet-centric. When you compare this to a practice that does none of it, clearly this practice stands out. But they did more. You can see this example on the left. Posting reached 1,400 people. And all it says is, remember this cat, which is a patient that they previously shared when that cat was a kitten. And they just shared a picture of, hey, this cat's growing, and look what this cat looks like. And by the way, look at these smiling faces of people that work at our practice that love working here. You can see the posting in the middle reached 789 people, and they just asked a question like, who's your pet's best friend? You can see the example on the far right. This is another pet story that they shared. This story was actually extremely successful, that the story actually got picked up in the media after it was shared on social media, and then they shared another update after it was picked up on the media. It's supposed to reach over 20,000 people by being able to just show pet owners the success of the way that they're able to treat patients. And I also have to admit, I recognize that this is not something that comes natural to practices and to people as well. And this is, I got to tell you, I'm speaking personally here as well. It's hard to sometimes talk about the good things that you do. It could come off as feeling braggy, right? If you're like, hey, look at this patient, we saved its life, or hey, look at this patient, they love coming to us here. It almost feels like when you share that on social media, you're like, it's really braggy, and I'm not a braggy type of person. This is why I struggle with social media personally myself, as just as a quote brand, right? You'll see that I probably post maybe a handful of times throughout the year, because I feel like there are certain things that I show, and I'm like, is this going to come across braggy? But really, it's just me showing people the latest work that I'm working on or what's happening, and it's just this mindset that actually that needs to change within a lot of us individually and our practices, but it's not braggy. This is just us showing the success of the relationship that you and your veterinary practice have with pet owners. It's showing people that, hey, you know, coming to the veterinarian isn't scary. Coming to the veterinarian is a good thing for your pet. And if anything, I want you to look at it as education. It's educating an audience who's desperate for information. When you share case examples on social media, it's very simple strategy that you can follow is think about a pet who's come into your practice with a problem, right? So pets come into your practice with problems all the time. That's why you're there, right? Maybe the problem is an itchy dog. Maybe the problem is a dog that was hit by a car. Maybe the problem is a cat that's straining to urinate. Maybe the problem is a senior arthritic golden retriever. Whatever the problem is, take a picture of the pet at some point in the recovery process and tell us what the problem was, and then tell us what you did to fix the problem. And it doesn't have to be like this long article of a story that you write. If you want to write a lot, great, that's awesome. Send it to your website company, post it on your website, and then share the link on social media. But all I mean is just, hey, what's the problem? Give me 2 to 3 sentences, not even 2 to 3 sentences. Give me 2 sentences about what the problem was, and then give me 2 sentences on what the solution was, right? Very easy to be able to engage a pet owner. And I want you to share stories through pictures, through video, or of course through written words. This is an example of Bloomsburg Veterinary Hospital out of Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. I love this because if you look at their Facebook page, they're telling the story of a pet that came in to have a dental cleaning in the practice. And so they called the album on Facebook, they called it The Story Behind King Solomon's Smile. And if you click on these pictures, you get to learn every stage of the dentistry that actually happened with this pet in the practice. And what this does is it changes perception of value. And I talk about this all the time. If we show pet owners everything that a dentistry entails, then they're more likely to see value in the fee that we charge for that, right? We try to explain to a pet owner in an exam room in 2 minutes everything that goes into a dental to justify the $300 to $500 cost that we've proposed to them. And we never do a great job at doing that. And there's a whole bunch of reasons that I won't get into about why, that we could talk about maybe in another day, or maybe we'll talk about later, I don't know. But what it does is it shows people this is what we do when there's a dental cleaning. Now, one of the things I tell people all the time about this is you don't want to jump into scary, right? You don't want to jump into your pet's going to die if they don't get a dental, or the grade 4 dental, right? Let's start with something a little bit more easy, the grade 1 or 2 dental, like they did here. We don't want to skip to the grade 4 dental of the dachshund who is 16 years old and never had a dental cleaning in its life and just ate a whole bunch of mush and garbage and its teeth are rotting away. And you don't want to say, hey, look, here's this dachshund came in. You can see the dachshund's very nasty teeth. And then look at the after. There's no more teeth. Life is great. And the dachshund's like this. We don't want to jump into that. You can certainly share that, but start with something a little bit more relatable, something a little bit more simple. This is an after-hours urgent care practice in St. Petersburg, Florida. This was a corgi that came in that had a bee sting, and the bee sting in this dog's muzzle kind of swelled up here. And what I love in this post is they not only shared a picture of the pet owner and her husband that came in, and of course the corgi and his muzzle here, is they also took this as an opportunity to say, by the way, a bee sting in a brachiocephalic breed can actually be really, really not good for that pet and potentially deadly. So they really just kind of took this as an opportunity to educate here. This is Jonesville Animal Hospital out of Newberry, Florida. I love this posting here, had 110 likes, 24 comments, reached over 1,000 people. It says just something a little simple kind of phrase that has been floating around the internet that says, veterinarians have to be several doctors in once. They have to be a dentist, a surgeon, an emergency doctor, and many others. They don't get breaks, and they often leave well long after the clinic closes. During routine examinations on healthy pets, very sick pets can come in, and doctors must switch their doctor hat instantly without hesitation. They constantly strive to provide the best care possible for our patients while also providing peace of mind to our clients. we would like to give a very big social media shout out to Dr. Lerman, Dr. Billette, and Dr. Davey for all you do. You're absolutely the best. And you should have seen all the people that shared this and were proud to show that this is who their veterinarian was. And we're giving just tons of great comments here as well. This is Wild Coast Vet. I had the great opportunity last year to visit South Africa and lecture there. And this was a veterinarian, and I love this story because this was a veterinarian who was much like some of the case examples that I shared earlier. You know, he was on social media, didn't really post much, didn't really find the time, didn't really know what to post, didn't really see the value that it had when it came to a new client acquisition strategy and to retention. And then really heard a talk like this among some others and really just felt like, hey, you know what, I do have an opportunity to improve. I'm really gonna change my mindset and give social media a try. And you should have seen the number of emails that I received from him after that event. Numerous emails just showing me, he was just so excited to show me everything that he did and the success that he was having as a result of it. This is an example of that veterinarian. And he shared this posting on social media last November. And it says, isn't the bond we make with our pets incredible? Coffee, the chocolate lab, came down with a bad case of tick bite fever and came to stay in the hospital with us. Coffee needed a blood transfusion, and Roger's own dog, Sybil, now Roger is the veterinarian, Sybil is of course his dog, Sybil donated blood to save his life. When we say that we're willing to go the extra mile, we truly mean it. Your pet's health is so important to us, and we care about each and every patient that comes into our clinic. Coffee, we're so glad that you're on the mend, a special boy. And Sybil, thank you for being an invaluable extension to the Wild Coast Vet team here. And so you get to see the veterinarian whose dog donated, you get to see his dog on what seems to be a very dangerous mountain, and then you get to see the case here. And so 44 comments, 18 shares, 266 people that engaged with it, which equates to thousands of people that were able to see this post. So again, I love this because it's sharing stories of patients in our practices to really be able to connect with our followers. This is an example of just how these two veterinary practices out of the New York area, how they market fear-free. I don't ever want you to go on social media and say, yo, we're fear-free, right? Instead, show me what that's like, right? So, you know, what's great about what Robert talked about earlier when he was talking about attracting the right clients, one of the things that he recommended was in a 90-minute session with your employees, he wants to make sure that you are taking the opportunity to brainstorm with your team to find out those things that make you unique. And I think it's a great exercise. But once you come up with that list, then I want you to then see how you can turn those things that make you unique into social media posts. And so this is how this practice was able to do it by sharing what fear-free actually looks like. They show a pet that has a cheese whiz, where the cheese whiz is on the floor, and how this is less stressful for pets. And it's just a great all-around campaign that you can use. I certainly want you to make sure that you post pictures of cats as well on social media. I wrote an article about how cats are often the most neglected species on social media. And so I want you to make sure that you utilize sharing examples of cats on social media. So this way we make sure that we don't forget to engage with our clients. One of the things that I encourage you to do on social media is you go to BuzzFeed Animals and you follow BuzzFeed Animals anywhere on social media. What's really cool about BuzzFeed Animals is they have a lot of humorous things, and they share a lot of random information about pets that you can use to really inspire you to create social media postings. I'll give you an example of one here. This is me tearing up. This is a study that was shared on BuzzFeed, and the story on BuzzFeed was that there was a study that was conducted out of some university here in the US, and the study said that it is very likely when dogs dream that they dream of us engaging with them throughout the day, doing the things that they love. So in short, dogs dream of us doing those things that we love doing with them. So it is likely that dogs dream of us playing ball with them, that dogs dream of going on walks with them, that dogs dream of when they like going swimming with us, that dogs dream of when we cuddle. And people were losing their mind. People were like, what did I do to deserve dogs? Dogs are too good for us. Right? And people were so sad. It's like, and people were just like cuddling their pets. I was at the airport and I was like, this is too good to be true. I miss my dogs, right? It was just like this amazing thing that happened. But here's what you could get them from that, right? You know, naturally, I was looking back on my phone and I found, you know, my pictures of my dog sleeping. Where is it here? There it is. This is my dog napping in my office, and I was like, oh my God, he's probably dreaming of me. This is amazing. So naturally, what you can do is you can turn this around into a social media campaign. You go on social media and you ask your clients, hey, you know, what do you think your pets dream of when they dream? According to the study, pets dream of us. And so you can, you know, pet owners can comment in the postings on what they think their dogs are dreaming of or their cats are dreaming of. Show a picture of, you know, you can ask pet owners, share a picture of your dog or cat dreaming. You can have a lot of fun with that, but it inspires you to be creative. One of the last things I want to go over here before we get into Q&A is this fun campaign that you can run, and it's probably one of my favorite campaigns of all time that you can run in your practice to really engage pet owners. But it's going on social media and it's asking pet owners, you know, what does your pet mean to you? This inspiration came when I was working with Elanco as part of a project to create awareness around a partnership that they've developed with a company out of Atlanta, Georgia called Canine Assistance. And what Canine Assistance does is they breed golden retrievers to become service dogs. And then they adopt them out for free to people who are in need of service dogs, and they pay for 100% of that dog's care for the life of that dog. And so the people who receive these dogs never have to pay a penny. And as a part of this campaign, Elanco went to the recipients of these dogs, and they asked these pet owners, what does your dog mean to you? And the relationship they have with their dogs. And it was a very emotional campaign. But then I thought, as a part of this, I said, you know, there must be something that veterinary practices can do. And so I started recommending veterinary practices ask their pet owners on social media, what does your pet mean to you? But I first encourage you to share what your own pets mean to you. And so when I came across this idea of this campaign, I naturally reflected on what my pets mean to me. And so, you know, when I think about what my pets mean to me, this is Elvis. I got Elvis is my first dog as an adult. He is 12 years old. No, he's 11 years old. I'm aging him already. He turned 11 this May. And when I got him, he was an only child. And he was just this great dog. He was the dog that really didn't need to be potty trained, didn't really need much attention in terms of really getting him to be the kind of dog that he is today. He was just this really good dog. He was quiet. He would cuddle with you. He would, you know, keep himself entertained sometimes when I was at work or away somewhere. And he was just this awesome dog. And I thought, you know, man, Elvis needs a friend, because I travel a lot. And at the time, my mom had a dog named Sassy, who was a very sassy Chihuahua who didn't make friends with other dogs. And I used to drop Elvis off to my mom's house to watch them when I traveled early on. And you know, so Elvis was still pretty much alone because Sassy wouldn't be friends with him. And then so I thought, you know, Elvis needs a friend, and I got Penny. And Penny was everything that I didn't want in a dog. She was, you know, have you ever got a pet and you're like, you know, can I just put you back where you came from and pretend that we never met each other, and that, you know, we're not friends, and just let's move on about our lives, because this is obviously not a match, right? Yeah, that was Penny for me. Penny was that dog where I was like, did I make the right decision? And so Penny was just, you know, she was just a very difficult dog. And so what I mean by that is she would poop and pee in her cage all night when I got her. And she had a lot of fur when she was a puppy. And so when she pooped, it's not like picking up little pellets. It was like diarrhea, because she had giardia. And so I would have to put her in the bath at like 2 in the morning. And I remember I would take her outside at like 3 in the morning, because I could just hear her crying. And she would just play. She would frolic in the grass and just hop around and make little twirls. And I remember where I used to live, there was this owl, and it would always stay on this wooden fence. And I remember this owl would always be out there when I'd come home at night, and it just always stayed out there. Like there must be mice in the area. And I remember I was taking Penny out, and the owl was there, and the owl was perched up on the fence, and I can see this owl's claws. And I looked at Penny, and I looked at the owl, and I said, this owl could make this just go away. This owl could just snatch Penny up and take her, and I can go to bed and we can call it a day. And you know, life is, I'm just kidding. I never once thought that I'm not ever that cruel. But Penny was difficult. And so I remember I didn't sleep for the first 3 days that I got her, because she would just cry all night, and I would have her in my bathroom, and I could just hear she just cried all night, pooped and peed all night. And the practice that I used to work for, I consulted with, after I worked there, and I went to the practice, and the owner of the practice, who I knew very well and is a mentor of mine, he looked at me and he said, "You look tired. What's going on?" And I told him, I said, you know, I've had this puppy for 3 days and she cries all night and she won't go to sleep. And he says, "Well, where do you put her?" I said, "Well, I put her in the bathroom, but tonight I'm probably going to put her in the laundry room. And then I'm going to pad the laundry room with towels to muffle the sound." And I said, "Because I need sleep." And he said, "Well, don't do that." He said, "Put her next to your bed." And I told him, I said, "That's not going to, no, because I'm really not going to sleep if she's next to my bed, because it's just this piercing bark is just going to just not stop." And he said, "Just put her next to your bed. She just wants to know you're there." I said, "Whatever." So that night I went back home and I put her cage next to my bed. And I remember he told me, he said, "Put your hand on the cage so she knows you're there." And I told him, I said, "I don't want her to know I'm there." I'm just kidding. And so so I did. I went and I laid in bed and I put my hand on her cage, and she slept the whole night. And I woke up the next morning and I was like, "Penny, why didn't you tell me that you just wanted to be close to me?" And she looked at me and she said, "Are you serious?" She said, "I peed on myself, I pooped on myself, and you didn't react to any of it." She's like, "I was trying to tell you that I wanted to be closer to you, but you put me further away." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, Penny." And ever since then, like, her and I had a strong bond. So people have these unique relationships and stories with their pets. And so I encourage you to ask them about those relationships, those stories. Tell them stories about when you adopted your pets and what those pets mean to you, to really be able to build a stronger bond with your pet owners, to tap into their emotions. And the reason that this does a great job at building relationships with your pet owners is that, according to psychologists, the first step toward building a bond is to tap into their emotion. And when you ask an emotional question like, "What does your pet mean to you?" Well, that's exactly what that does. And to me, that's what social media is aimed at doing. It's really aimed at making sure that we help people, build stronger bonds with our pet owners. Sometimes things that we can't do curbside, right? Things that we sometimes can't do in the practice because we're too busy. That's what social media does. It's giving you the opportunity to engage with pet owners in a way that's meaningful, in a way that bonds them to your practice, in a way, frankly, that often we can't do in the exam room because we're tapped and pressed for time. So hopefully I was able to inspire some ideas that you can utilize in your practice when it comes to your social media strategies. So this way you can start sharing content that engages your pet owners, that helps you increase retention with your existing pet owners,
Bueno, espero hayan disfrutado la plática de Eric del día de hoy. Les presento a Eric aquí con nosotros, listo para responder algunas preguntas que tenemos. So, welcome, Eric. We are here with all the Latin American associates of WSAVA. So we appreciate your talks and a lot of value given to us during these couple of days.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here, and a warm thank you to everyone for joining us.
Muchas gracias. Es un placer estar aquí y poder compartir con todos nosotros. Okay, so we have a question from Germán from Ecuador. Let me translate it. And how can we manage bad clients in social media? ¿Cómo podemos manejar a clientes malos en redes sociales?
Bueno, doctor Humano, yo voy a tratar a dar una respuesta en español aquí. Bueno, okay. Eso es una pregunta que mucha gente en esta charla me preguntan. Y cuando esto pasa, es importante hacer alguna cosa. Para empezar, si un dueño de las mascotas van en social media, en Google, en cualquier sitio, para decir algo negativo de ti, de uno de los empleados de la clínica, es importante para empezar que no diga nada en un día, 2 días. Y yo digo eso porque cuando respondamos en el momento que ellos dejan el review ese, a veces nosotros digamos algo que puede ser que no digamos, no necesitamos a decir con el dueño de mascota. A veces estamos tan enfogonados con la situación que decimos algo que va a reflejar en la clínica negativo. Y yo creo que necesita caminar, coger algo de ver, pero yo creo que tú necesitas no decir nada para un día, para 2 días. Bueno, después de eso, tú necesitas llamar al cliente. No diga nada en social media o Google, pero llámalo en el teléfono. Y para mí es importante preguntar al dueño de la mascota qué pasó y qué puedes hacer para corregir la situación. Mucha gente de los mascotas dicen cosas en social media porque ellos quieren acoger tu atención. Y cuando solamente tú lo llamas y tú hablas con ellos, en la mayoría de las situaciones, tú puedes hablar con ellos y puedes coger la situación y va a ser con un filán más contento para todo el mundo. Y si esto pasa y todo está bien después de la llamada, tú puedes ir a social media y responder diciendo gracias por coger mi llamada. Yo estoy contento que todo está bien ahora y bueno, nos vemos en su próxima visita en la clínica de nosotros. Si no puede coger el cliente en el teléfono, para mí es importante dejar una respuesta, algo como para decirle al cliente, Es importante que nosotros hablamos en esto en el teléfono. Esto es alguna cosa que no pasa en el clínica de nosotros y yo quiero hablar contigo para ver qué podemos hacer para corregir el situación. Pero para mí, yo no creo, y yo digo esto a las clínicas en todo el mundo, es importante que tú no respondas con otra historia y tú dices cosas que pasó en el clínica con ese paciente, porque si tú haces eso, tú puedes violar el privacidad del cliente, porque tú estás dando información que necesita ser privado. Y para mí, algo simple, llámame, yo quiero hablar contigo con esto y ya. No necesitas hacer nada más.
Try. Gracias, Eric. Bien, buena respuesta en español.
Gracias.
Ok, tengo otra pregunta de Guillermina desde Argentina. Quisiera preguntarle si para mostrar las fotografías de pacientes, le pregunta antes al propietario para explicarle el uso que se les va a dar. And this adds with something else that I had. How do you recommend to get the client's consent? ¿Cómo recomienda obtener el consentimiento del propietario?
Sí, para mí es importante que tiene una forma que el cliente puede firmar. Y para mí eso es importante porque tú no quieres un dueño de la mascota que va en social media y ven una foto del mascota de ellos o una foto de ellos. Y ellos te llaman y te dicen, bueno, tú no tienes mi permission del mío para tener ese retrato en social media. Y yo digo a todas las clínicas que es importante que tengan una forma para el cliente que pueden afirmar. Y si tú no tienes una forma, si quieres, yo voy a poner mi correo electrónico en el chat y pueden enviarme un mensaje. Yo tengo una forma que el cliente puede afirmar y la forma ya está en español. So puede usarlo como es, pero sí lo necesitamos, es importante.
Ok, tenemos también otra pregunta de Menzi de Paraguay. ¿Con qué frecuencia recomienda publicar posteos? ¿Semanales podría ser?
Sí, para mí es, yo digo como 2 o 3 veces semanal. Y no quiere hacer mucho más de 3 o 4. Y yo digo eso porque yo sé que tú no tienes mucho tiempo para dedicar a social media. Y tú quieres hacer algo que va a ser bueno para ustedes y algo que no es tanto información para los pacientes de nosotros, o bueno, los clientes. Y si para empezar, si tú estás nuevo en social media, empieza como con 2 postear. Y cuando, y si puede, hasta 3, 4, pero no más de eso. Y eso es, y si tiene mucho que decir, bueno, úsalo en el otro semana.
Ok, tengo otra pregunta aquí. ¿Cuál es tu opinión de compartir fotos de cirugías o procedimientos que pueden ser de repente muy choqueantes? Digamos, hemos notado mucho que de repente hay colegas que postean cirugías y en Facebook sale contenido inapropiado, etcétera. Entonces, aquí preguntan qué pueden obtener de parte tuya en ese sentido.
That one I'm going to need you to ask in English. I think I know what you said, but I just want to make sure.
Okay. The question is, what do you think of sharing surgery photos or pictures that have certain procedures that may be a little like that involve blood, or we've seen some colleagues that share photos and then it's suddenly banned from Facebook or says things like that. So sí, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure. Para mí, yo no recomiendo retrato con sangre y no lo recomiendo porque los dueños de las mascotas tienen son sensitivo. Y ellos no gustan retratos con sangre y cosas que ellos pueden que ellos pueden ver que para ellos es malo. Si es un otro veterinario o un amigo o alguien que no está poseando por la clínica, sí, lo puedo hacer. Yo tengo un amigo que es veterinario que lo hace y él habla con veterinarios por todo el mundo y él tiene retrato de cosas que yo no quiero ver, pero muchos de los dueños de mascotas, ellos no quieren ver eso. Eso es algo que puede dar miedo a ellos a traer sus mascotas en su práctica y para mí yo digo a las clínicas que no envíen retratos en social media con sangre o nada tan sensitivo.
Ok, muchas gracias. Aquí otra pregunta de Guillermina de Argentina. ¿Puedes compartir un disclaimer para consultas en las clínicas?
Sí, yo tengo dos que yo puedo enviar por correo electrónico. Y ya lo ponía ahí en el chat, pero si quiere, envíame un mensaje. Y yo tengo dos que están en español que puedo usar.
Ok, gracias. Y yo tengo una pregunta, esta es personal. ¿Qué piensas del uso de redes sociales en diferentes grupos culturales? Porque he sentido que en ciertas regiones hay ciertas redes que tienen más pegada, en otras regiones otros. Incluso los posteos hacia ciertos grupos de personas, digamos, si los posteos dirigidos a un grupo de 50 años para arriba, otro grupo como para millennials, etcétera. O sea, ¿qué piensas de ese tipo, hablando culturalmente, más aquí que en WSAVA somos de diferentes regiones? Entonces, digamos, yo en lo personal nos ha funcionado mucho WhatsApp Business, etcétera. Entonces, por ahí va la pregunta, más o menos.
Sí, para empezar, WhatsApp Business sí es grande. No es tan grande aquí en los Estados Unidos, pero es muy grande en Sudamérica, Indonesia, Filipinas, Hong Kong y en países así. Pero si eso es, WhatsApp Business es muy grande. Hay muchas cosas que pueden hacer para comunicar con los clientes y ahora con COVID, que en algunas clínicas en el mundo hay los dueños de las mascotas no pueden entrar en la clínica. Y sí, podemos llamar al cliente y hacerle el examen y todo eso, pero tú puedes usar WhatsApp Business para enviar un mensaje para decir, mira, yo estoy atrasado ahora, todo está, pero dame como 10 minutos y te voy a llamar. Y hay muchas cosas que tú puedes hacer con WhatsApp Business para comunicar con su cliente que también usa WhatsApp Business. El otro es Facebook. Facebook es por cualquier tipo del mundo nosotros estamos, porque es tan grande. Hay como 3 billones de gentes que están ahí. Y muchos de los clientes que están mayores, que tienen 50 y arriba, están ahí también. Facebook es no solamente para los jóvenes, es para la gente mayor también. Después de Facebook es Instagram. Instagram es otro que ya tiene mucho de los dueños de las mascotas que están ahí, están poniendo fotos de los mascotas de ellos. Y para mí es importante que la clínica está ahí también comunicando. Instagram ya tiene casi mitad que Facebook tiene ahora. Mucha gente no sabe que Instagram es con Facebook y están juntos. Y después de que en Instagram, ahora yo digo, si la clínica está, si ellos se gustan hacer el video para educación para los clientes, yo creo que YouTube es otro para usar YouTube. Si es para todo el mundo también. Jóvenes, mayores, y no importa de dónde viene en este mundo o dónde vive en este mundo. Pero algo que yo quiero decir con esto también es, a veces hay social media channels, social media como por ejemplo TikTok, que muchos veterinarios me preguntan, mira, Eric, todo el mundo tiene video en TikTok y me da risa y todo eso, y es importante que la clínica mía está en TikTok. Y yo digo no. Yo digo no, porque muchos adolescentes en TikTok son jóvenes. Y eso no son los clientes de nosotros. Yo no quiero que tú da tiempo, que yo sé que tú no tienes mucho tiempo porque hay muchas cosas que necesitas hacer. Y yo no quiero que tú envíes mucho tiempo usando algo que los clientes tú no están ahí usándolo. Yo quiero que usa donde están los clientes de nosotros estamos, y en todo el mundo, menos Estados Unidos, es WhatsApp Business, Facebook, Instagram y YouTube.
Perfecto. Bueno, creo que Eric, no tenemos por el momento. No, perdón, acaba de aparecer otra. ¿Qué opinas de los linchamientos mediáticos en redes sociales que están pasando mucho en Latinoamérica? Ese es el online bullying, el linchamiento, es eso.
Sí, bueno, no me gusta, para empezar. No me gusta y esto es un problema que todo el mundo tiene ahora. Y para mí, esto pasa a veces por algunas razones. Uno, la mayoría de los dueños de las mascotas, ellos van a social media y dicen cosas que no son verdad, porque ellos quieren hacer daño a la clínica. Y ellos están enfogonados porque puede ser que un día ellos tenían un animal que trajeron a la clínica y el animal tenía una enfermedad y ellos no tenían dinero. Y bueno, ellos querían que tú si tiene corazón, que tú da tu tiempo para nada y para curar el animal. Y si tú no lo curaste, tú eres algo malo y ellos van en social media y dicen cosas y están, como yo digo, enfogonados. Y esto pasa porque no hay mucho educación que nuestra profesión veterinario en todo el mundo. No hay mucho educación que nosotros hacemos en social media para enseñar a los dueños de las mascotas que si pones vacunas cada año, que esto puede reducir enfermedades de los animales y como parvo o algo así, y ellos no saben cuánto, cuando el animal de ellos se enferma, que ellos necesitan placa para entregarlo al veterinario. Para el veterinario puede ser algunos médicos. Y para mí esto es la razón que necesitamos usar social media para educación, a darle educación a nuestros dueños de las mascotas en la importancia traer el mascotas a la práctica. Y si no hacemos eso, no vamos a parar el linchamientos que está pasando. La otra cosa que yo quiero decir es que cuando eso pasa, ellos quieren atención. Y si tú das tu atención, o si uno de los empleados o empleados en la clínica dan mucha atención, bueno, si tú das eso se maneja algo más grande. Yo creo que cuando eso pasa, déjalo solo, no diga nada, no diga nada. Y si en 3 o 4 días no se para, en ese momento es importante que tú das una respuesta, diga para decir a todo el mundo que está mirando ese posteal qué pasó y que ellos que te acusan, no es verdad. Pon una respuesta y ya, nada más. Porque si tú dale y no para a hablar con ellos y los empleados lo hacen lo mismo, se pone en una cosa grande. Hay mucho ahora que está pasando en el mundo y si tú das atención a las cosas así, bueno, ellos no van a parar. Y si tú no das la atención de tuyo, eso sí para y ellos buscan algo diferente para alguien diferente para atacar y ellos se mudan en algo diferente.
Ok. Bueno, Eric, quiero agradecerte aquí públicamente por tu disposición para colaborar con nosotros. Esta es una iniciativa nueva de WSAVA Latinoamérica, ya que no hemos tenido estas conferencias presenciales, ahora hemos tenido que adaptarnos y pues es nuestra primera incursión en este tipo de eventos, pero esperamos poder seguirlos haciendo y quizás contar con tu presencia en un futuro. Esto es de mucho valor para nosotros y pues queremos ir fomentándolo día a día. Tratando más adelante.
Gracias a todos.
Ok, chao.